Thank you for joining us for our community conversations through Safe Harbor of Sheboygan. My name is Vanessa, and my role with Safe Harbor is with volunteers and community engagement. The goals of this series are focused on creating a greater understanding about community agencies that victim survivors of sexual assault may first report to, along with gaining clarity regarding the roles of these agencies, the mechanisms of their support, and the resources available through those agencies. The series is also focused on creating more awareness surrounding the options available to victims and survivors so they're able to make more informed decisions about how they wish to navigate community resources. So today I'm joined by Monica and Cindy from the Aging and Disability Resource Center. Welcome to you both. Could you please each take some time to share about your roles at ADRC?
Sure, I'll go first. My title is Disability Benefit Specialist, and I work with people who are between the ages of 17 and a half and transitioning into adulthood at age 18 through the age of 59. And then I have a counterpart called an Elderly Benefit Specialist who assists people 60 and over. And I work in the areas of Social Security, applications, appeals, the processes, helping people understand their benefits if they are on Social Security, and also if they are receiving Social Security disability, then helping them make sure they have health insurance to make sure they stay healthy. So I look at health insurance coverage as well.
Great, thank you, Monica. How about you, Cindy?
Hi, everyone. My name is Cindy Sook, and I wear many hats at the Sheboygan County Aging and Disability Resource Center. I am a licensed social worker, but in addition to that, I am hired specifically as a developmental disability specialist who works with adults with all kinds of intellectual and developmental disabilities. Between the ages of 17 and a half and up, beyond 60. I also work with adults who are physically disabled and senior citizens. Traditionally, my focus has been primarily with the intellectually and developmentally disabled, but it is branching out a little bit. In addition to that, I work as an information and assistance specialist, which means providing options counseling to Sheboygan County individuals who call us with whatever questions they have related to living with a disability or living while as they're aging and the changes that are happening in their lives. So those are sometimes on call, where they just call us and it's a conversation over the phone, and sometimes it's a more in-depth conversation that we have with people in their homes or during COVID, virtually or over the phone. In addition to that, I also do manage the social networking for the social media for Sheboygan County ADRC and try to get our information out to the public about the things that we offer. One thing Monica and I will probably both say is that people don't think of us and needing us until it's their crisis. And they don't think about learning about us in advance and pre-planning. So we're trying to get people to know us before they need us.
Awesome. Thank you so much to both of you. All right, so the first question is, as it pertains to sexual violence, how does ADRC typically become involved?
Well, I'll field that first. I get many referrals from agencies such as Safe Harbor. Persons from Safe Harbor may call me with asking, I I need more information about Social Security disability. What is it about? Do you think that I should apply? Is it something, you know, with what I'm going through, is it something that I should consider? So I educate people on what the policies are for Social Security disability. I also get referrals from W-2. So maybe a family, a person experiencing domestic violence has now tapping into W-2 or the Division of Vocational Rehab. Maybe they are, they have a therapist or a psychiatrist over at Health and Human Services. I get referrals from there. I get referrals from many clinics, whether it's Lakeshore Community Health Center to Aurora, maybe orthopedics, maybe mental health, Prevea, the hospital. So I get from information and assistance staff, my coworkers. So I get referrals and people call directly. And they wonder about what is this business about Social Security, because we were never taught it in school. And there's a lot to understand about what the rules are for qualifying. And many times, part of my conversation with somebody about Social Security is also talking about what are the other things and what are other resources somebody could consider while they're applying for disability, or maybe they're not at a level for Social Security disability and they need other avenues to pursue employment. And that would be talking about the Division of Vocational Rehab. And I do a lot of brainstorming too. So direct calls and referrals would come through my door, as well as the elderly benefits specialist, 60 and over, that's Mary Kempf. And she would help seniors navigate some of the Social Security disability. I'm sure understanding what it is. She may not assist with a case, a claim, and she certainly helps with health insurance for seniors, health and other programs that a senior 60 and over might need. So that's how they would get in touch with me or connect.
Great.
Usually.
So for me at the ADRC, the calls may come in as just our regular INA information and assistance calls. We're open every day from 8 to 5 and people can call us at any point, and sometimes people do. They may call us with Adult Protective Services referrals. Sometimes they just call to pick our brains and try to find out about different resources and what things might be suggested for them to help them through whatever crisis they may be going through. So it may come, as I said, as a cold call. In a situation where there is actually a desire or a need to make a referral to Adult Protective Services, the information and assistance specialists will write that up and make that referral to the Adult Protective Services Department, and that would be Dylan Schiff, who you spoke with earlier and who has a separate video. And then the Adult Protective Services Department would investigate any of those allegations, often in connection with law enforcement. Additionally, we may get calls from other agencies where somebody has come in to, say, a place like RCS Empowers or a school, and that individual, say it's a young person with a disability, 17 or 18 years old with a disability, and they have revealed to a teacher or somebody that they work with that they've been victimized by sexual assault. And then those agencies have been directed not to investigate themselves, but to refer it on to proper authorities, that being law enforcement or Adult Protective Services. So often they might call with the person. Calls either need to be made with the person unless the person is at risk and in need of those adult protective services, and somebody needs to report it to an agency that can intervene. Schools, as I said, call frequently and say, this is what a student told me, what can I do? Sometimes they don't give us the actual student information. The student might just want to know what their resources are. Other times, as I said, it might be an adult protective services referral. Agencies such as a place like RCS or adult daycare services or things of that nature would call us to make those referrals. And again, the information and assistance specialists would take them and refer them on to the Adult Protective Services Department.
Awesome. Thank you so much. All right. So how does trauma-informed care look like at ADRC?
Well, both Cindy and I and the whole ADRC are receiving ongoing training on the area of trauma-informed care. And certainly, if someone is making an appointment with me, I always let them know that if they need breaks, if we need to break up the appointment because it's too overwhelming, or if they need to cancel, just give me a call and reschedule because they're not doing well one day on the day that we would meet. So I, based on the supports I get and the training I get, I try and keep what's best in mind for that person, and hopefully they feel comfortable enough to just let me know how they're feeling, how they're doing, the pace that we're going at, and there's whatever they need to share with me is up to them. So we may not talk about anything why they may be at Safe Harbor, and maybe they feel in time they want to share whatever they feel is important, or some people feel that they want to make sure they're sharing what's going on so that it does get put in their claim, and that it does matter what someone emotionally and psychologically and physically is going through, and maybe some history that lends to their story. And the whole point of the claim is helping that the Social Security and the Disability Bureau help them understand what a person is going through and how it may contribute to the decision of maybe they might be found disabled right now because it's adding to the story, but in the future maybe the Disability Bureau will revisit in a year, 3 years, because they hope that there's improvement down the road. So but certainly I'm aware of trauma-informed care, and I try and keep that in mind, and try to be as respectful as I can about what somebody coming to me may be going through.
Excellent. Great.
So for myself, as Monica said, our entire agency has an ongoing training plan led by Katie Pruitt regarding trauma-informed care. My entire career has been spent with primarily spent with individuals with disabilities, adults with disabilities. And as you probably know from Safe Harbor, people with disabilities have been victimized, whether it be sexual, physical, emotional, financial abuse at a greater rate and in greater numbers than the general population, particularly those who have spent any time in institutions. So it's always been part of our search for information on how to help a person. Sometimes they don't share with us right away, or we may learn later, but if it is revealed to us, we're not counselors. We don't counsel a person regarding their psychological trauma, but we would certainly provide information on where they can get help. But the other issue is that trauma obviously is going to impact how they learn, how they are willing to interact with other individuals. Some people, as you know, use behavior to communicate rather than their words, and so there's patterns of behavior. Unfortunately, as I said, there are a number of people with disabilities who had multiple years of abuse, and those behaviors are ingrained. And so it's necessary to work with them and their loved ones and individuals who support them to know, perhaps not all the details, but to know that the trauma is there and what to expect. The other issue is for senior citizens, there's always been a stigma. And so senior citizens, it again may never have been reported, whether it was something that was from a family member or someone that they knew or a stranger. If it happened in the 40s or 50s, it might not have ever been reported, and it comes out later, comes out sideways. And there are many studies that show, like for individuals with Alzheimer's and dementia, as their memory fades, their short-term memory fades, but they still have that long-term memory, reacting now as if those trauma incidents were occurring then. So it's really important in supporting people that we at least have an inkling of what that trauma is, how it's affected them, how they cope with it, and to explore other methods of coping that might be a more positive way. And, it's a slow process. So the other thing that I've also been doing is I've been participating in a lot of trainings outside of our regular TIC. There's an institute called Vera Institute of Justice that works primarily regarding that intersectionality of people with disabilities and people of color, and working within the law enforcement system. And I've been participating in lots of different webinars to try and gain more knowledge on this issue, because a lot of the people that Monica and I in particular deal with, individuals with disabilities, just might not even have the language to express what the issue is. And we just know that something traumatic happened. So for some people, it's a bit of a mystery, and we have to kind of tiptoe our way through. Other people are more forthcoming, but there's still so much stigma, particularly for older folks, that they don't want to admit those things happened, and they certainly don't want to discuss it.
Awesome. All right. Then the next question I have for you guys is, how can a caregiver find support through ADRC, and how is that process different for an independent, elderly, or disabled individual?
Could you repeat that again, please, Vanessa?
Sure. So the question is, how can a caregiver find support through ADRC, and how is the process different for an independent senior or disabled person?
Okay, well, a caregiver is free to call at the ADRC, and depending on, they'll be able to get general information. that either myself, the the disability benefit specialist, elderly benefit specialist, or the information and assistance staff, as well as adult protective service workers, we can all provide general information. For my program, anything specific for a person regarding themselves or their benefits, specific benefit information, I would need to talk with the person themselves. And as far as a person being disabled by Social Security and versus an elderly person who's now retired, benefits, Social Security benefits, and Medicare, Medicaid are basically the same. So it really doesn't, the benefits are essentially the same, whether you're physically disabled, or disabled from any disability as determined by the Social Security Administration, versus someone who's now retired and collecting Social Security retirement. There may be some working while collecting benefits. There may be some differences between someone who is determined disabled by Social Security and those work options versus someone who's now retired and what's allowed for a retired Social Security recipient to work still. There's differences there. And essentially for Medicare insurance, which is federal health insurance, seniors will get that when they turn 65 right now in our country, but also a person deemed disabled by the Social Security Administration will receive Medicare after they receive Social Security disability benefit checks for 24 months. They also will get Medicare. So from the benefit specialist world, many of the benefits are the same in terms of Social Security benefits and health insurance.
Great, thank you.
So from my perspective, anyone can call us. When we're on call, as I said, Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, anyone can call. What happens after we receive that call depends on the relationship the caller has to the person who needs help. So if it's the person themselves and they're their own decision maker and they call us and they're looking for services, we can provide the full menu of services and information to them that they request or that they might have an interest in. Everything we do is voluntary in that people have to want our involvement. So a person who is their own decision maker can call for any portion of services and resources that we provide. A person who has a legal decision maker, such as a guardian or an activated power of attorney, we would need to speak with that legal decision maker before we could proceed with any kind of assessments for long-term care funding or any in-depth options counseling. It has to come from whoever is the deciding factor. If the individual does not have a decision maker, but it appears that one might be needed, that's when Adult Protective Services might be brought into the discussion to determine if there is a need for that. So if somebody calls us and they don't necessarily say that they are looking for caregiver supports, but during our conversation, we can detect that they are quite stressed out. They might start crying. They might, make exclamations about, the things that are happening in their lives and what how overwhelming things are. And in situations like that, we would probe and we would offer information that, you know, there are specific caregiver supports available, and if they wanted to participate in them. So we have a caregiver specialist here. Her name is Lisa Hurley. And so she works with caregivers. Probably the primary caregivers she works with are people who are caregiving for someone with Alzheimer's or dementia, or someone who is elderly. But she's also working a lot with grandparents who are raising children in the kinship program, and some for caregivers who are, say, caregivers for siblings, or adults who have a disabled adult child. So we may ask them if they want to speak with Lisa and participate in any of our workshops. We do have several different types of caregiver workshops, and with COVID this year, they are starting to go virtual, which is nice because the population that we're dealing with, often caregivers can't get away from home for outside meetings. So if they can log on and participate in a support group or a workshop without having to find a respite provider for their loved one, you know, that's a benefit. So if a caregiver calls us, gets information, and they really think that this person might benefit by our services, we would tell them to talk to the person involved, get their permission to call back, or to call back together. Or if sometimes they just want the information and we don't hear from them again. Again, it's all voluntary. It's finding out what they need to know at the time they need it. But some people call us back multiple times, pages and pages of contacts, and some people just want one little brief piece of information, and that's all they want. So that's what we're here to do, is answer those questions.
Excellent. Thank you so much. So the final question I have for both of you is, what is one thing you want the community to know about ADRC?
The one thing I would like our community to know about our ADRC is that we are there for you. We want to be welcoming to you. There's no wrong question. There's no, you know, we are there to help you find the answers to what you're exploring or need to undertake. And if it's not our role, we'll help you find where that next role is. And sometimes we'll even help you walk along and connect with that agency if it's necessary. So just that we're here for you, and we hope that you feel comfortable with us, and it's our aim to help you feel comfortable.
I would add that it doesn't matter if you are a multimillionaire and want to call us and find out about resources or learn how to stretch your dollars to cover the services that you need, or you call us and you have no income and no assets. It doesn't matter. There are services that, you know, if somebody has assets, we wouldn't talk to them about long-term care funding. But, you know, there are other things that they might be eligible for or could be helpful to them. And I'm going to sneak in here and give you more than one. Another thing I wanted to add is that we will use interpreters. We welcome people of, whether it doesn't matter if they are English speakers or not. We will use, we often use a phone service for interpreters, especially if somebody calls or it's a walk-in. Or if we're meeting face-to-face, we might have an in-person interpreter, whether it's Hmong or Spanish or American Sign Language. It's our responsibility to provide that interpreter service. And as Monica said, our job is to make it as comfortable for a person as it can possibly be, because it takes actually quite a bit of bravery to come in on a person's face when they start telling us what their needs are, and realize that they are not alone, and that there might be something to help them in their particular situation. And I'm actually going to add a third. We get a lot of referrals for senior citizens, which I think is normal, because that would be the largest population that we serve. We get a fair number of individuals who are intellectually or developmentally disabled, and as I said, the emerging adults that are 17 and a half or older. The schools are really good about trying to help people connect with us. But I think the population out there that might have a physical disability, spinal cord injuries, ALS, people who use wheelchairs and things, I don't think we get as many referrals or questions from that population group, and I wish that we would. So we want to connect with everybody, but as I said earlier, people don't think about it until there's a problem or a crisis and they need that right now. They're not necessarily thinking proactively and trying to plan for the future.
Great. Well, good points from both of you, and I definitely appreciate you joining us today. Thank you again, and have a great day.
Thank you, and thank you for having us.